It looks like it could be a tense round of the championship here as we prepare to get today's race underway. We're southwest of the city of Nagoya today at a wet and windy Suzuka circuit. 3.6 miles and 18 corners make up a lap here, with Sector 1 likely to prove especially difficult in these conditions. We should see overtaking into turns 1 and 16 today, and maybe a few Kobayashi-style dives into the hairpin as well. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Why don't we kick off by discussing Max Verstappen? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, just edging out Alexander Albon, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, and Verstappen, Ricciardo, Ocon, Kvyat, and Lando Norris, Perez, Stroll, Pierre Gasly, and Sainz, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, George Russell, and Roman Grosjean, Magnussen, and Nicholas Latifi. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Here we are in the Japanese Grand Prix. 5 lights, and it's lights out, and away we go. Albon on the front row instead of usually Verstappen, who's on the front row. Gets a horrible start there, Alex Albon. Hamilton gets off very well. Sorry, Valtteri Bottas gets off very well. He's on pole, and that's Max Verstappen barging his way up into 3rd place. He's been pushed under the grass by his teammate. Bit of contact between those two, and we've seen it in the past. Those two, especially in intermediate conditions, they seem to always come together, and once again it's happened. But now, as we continue to go down the field, you see the Renaults are doing pretty damn well. Ferraris behind both Red Bulls now, as Max Verstappen from 6th place moves up into 4th, I believe. Well, Albon, who got a stunning qualifying yesterday, could only to take his first ever front row start, has dropped down to 3rd behind Lewis Hamilton in these wet conditions. As now we go to the bottom of the grid, we can see in these intermediate conditions the Mercedes are looking incredibly fast as Bottas pulls away from Lewis Hamilton, or at least he's in front of Hamilton as Hamilton pulls massively on Albon after Albon and Verstappen had their little battle on the opening few corners, as now Charles Leclerc is on the back of Max Verstappen. Those two have battled quite a lot in intermediate conditions back in Zandvoort. Will it happen again here, or will Max pull away? I would think Max could pull away, given how good he is in these wet conditions, but anything can happen, and the Ferrari might actually be a much quicker car than we are expecting. They go down the hill, and Max actually got very close to Alex there. As that is... As we continue with the Renaults, Ocon behind Ricciardo again. And I believe Perez is in front of Lance Stroll. Those two have been pretty close in the points this year, surprisingly enough. After a pretty disappointing 2019 for Stroll. I don't think it was that bad, but really, he was way off Perez this year. He's really challenging Sergio. As now we move back to the front of the field, that's Valtteri Bottas I believe he's being caught by Lewis Hamilton, as now Albon is pulling a lot from Verstappen. Max is struggling. Here comes Charles Leclerc. No, he has to back off, and Leclerc is now defending from Vettel. Very interesting stuff there. It looks like Max Verstappen might actually have a problem with his car.
I'm losing power, guys.
And yes, we've just heard over the radio, Max Verstappen is struggling with his engine in these wet conditions, but can he keep Charles Leclerc behind? as we continue to go down the field here in Japan. A wet race, but it should actually dry up towards the end of the race, or at least toward the middle of the race. It should be drying up, so that will make things very, very interesting in terms of the pit stops and the way everyone really goes. Now it's Bottas who continues to lead from his teammate Lewis Hamilton. For the sake of the championship, that is very good for Valtteri, who needs to get maximum points in this race. As you can see, Albon is actually pulling away from Max now by quite a bit, and you can really even hear how much Verstappen is struggling, as Charles Leclerc is all over the back of Max Verstappen. They go down the hill. Max has the confidence to go over these curbs. Leclerc not quite the same confidence Max has to go over these curbs. But anyways, Charles Leclerc on the back of Verstappen doesn't go for it. As you can see, Verstappen taking a wider line through the hairpin, which allows him to have a stronger exit onto the straight here. Well, curving straight. And that means that Leclerc can't attack him into spoon, and it's very good driving from Max, as he seems to be adapting pretty well to the power loss in his car. But you can see the Red Bull is probably quicker than the Ferrari here, and it is really making Verstappen struggle here. His issues, although he seems to be pretty quick on the straight, it does seem like Leclerc is catching up as Max goes a little bit wide through 130R. Charles Leclerc all over the back of Max Verstappen, but he doesn't go for it in these wet conditions. It just would be pretty stupid to make a dive bomb from that far back. But now, here they go onto the long straight. Verstappen gets, again, a much better exit. He's been very good on the exits. Well, relatively good through some of these corners. But actually, Verstappen isn't struggling too much in the straights here. Sebastian Vettel down the inside of Charles Leclerc. Can't make it work. He has a look, but he backs out of it. As, obviously, he doesn't want to crash into his teammate, as that has happened before. And now through these corners, you can see I think Verstappen is just struggling perhaps with engine braking or something, because he's losing so much time through these S's. He's going a little bit wider there. You can see Max usually likes to take a bit of a wider line when it comes to these more wet conditions. Leclerc actually has the overtake button active as Verstappen again goes almost completely off track. They're very risky as Verstappen loses the back end. Charles Leclerc all over the back of Verstappen, but he can't quite go for it. Again, you can see Verstappen goes a bit wider here. Leclerc does go for it. They're going to go side by side, but Leclerc backs out, as he doesn't have the best optimal, doesn't have the optimal line to battle Verstappen. But since Max couldn't get his perfect exit that he's been getting, it means Leclerc is very close to him coming into spoon, as Vettel is also very close to Leclerc behind. But yeah, Max just couldn't get the perfect exit. And now here comes Charles Leclerc at the 130 of Verstappen. Very aggressive defending. I mean, both Leclerc and Verstappen always seem to have the best of battles, and again, they're having another great one here today. As it looks like Verstappen taking a bit more of a defensive line in through the chicane, and now look at that exit from Verstappen. And perhaps he's having problems with his battery, but he's definitely not too quick, because the Renaults have actually caught up to this little Verstappen train. And this Verstappen train did kind of happen in Britain as well, but that was because the tires that Max was on were just much worse than the softer compound that everybody else was on, because Max was flying once he went onto the softer compound. But now, back to this race, of course. Bottas isn't really losing too much time to Lewis anymore. The gap is pretty steady, and that is looking very good for Bottas, and for the sake of his championship dream. While Max Verstappen, again, doesn't look like he's going to get too many points today. If he can hold Leclerc behind, that would be great for his championship. But the question is, can he hold Leclerc behind? As you can see, Leclerc can't actually go as wide as he wants on that exit, because Verstappen's there, and it means that he actually has to back out of there, or else he'll get a ton of wheel spin, and it's allowing Verstappen to stay in front. He's playing this very smart. But Leclerc has to be said is keeping is all over the back of Verstappen. It was a great overtaking attempt. Can he pull it off next lap? As you can see, through and 30R, Verstappen's losing so much time. It seems to anything high speed, any kind of high speed corner, he's losing time. Maybe it's maybe he's lost part of his aerodynamics or something. But he did mention there was a problem with his power. Anyway, Charles Leclerc closer than he was last lap. He's very close this lap. As you can see, they've pulled away a little bit from the Renaults this lap. But Leclerc isn't close enough to make a move on Verstappen. Oh, they haven't really pulled away from the Renaults. They are still very much there. Danny Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon looking to pick up the pieces of any types of crashing that goes on between Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, or Sebastian Vettel. And here goes Charles Leclerc down the inside, but he becomes the outside for the next corner. Verstappen blocks him off aggressively. Charles Leclerc around the outside doesn't really have the space as Vettel's right up behind them. But Verstappen is struggling so much with his car right now. And look at that, he loses the back end. That's going to allow Charles Leclerc to get alongside. Not quite. As Sebastian Vettel has a look at Charles Leclerc, but can't quite go for it as Charles Leclerc back down the inside. And he can't make it work again. He's had the same issue as Verstappen. Gets a better exit. Is able to stay in front. And now we can see Leclerc's closer than he was last lap. On Verstappen, he's all over him. And Verstappen goes a little bit wide. Charles Leclerc on the inside. Through Spoon. What a move from Charles Leclerc to get in front of Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc takes 4th place as they're side by side. Down the straight, Leclerc gets in front. Round the outside goes Max Verstappen. What an overtake. That's got to be one of the best moves and one of the best camera shots. Has to be said, this helicopter's doing a great job. What a move from Max Verstappen. What a move from Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen pulls into the pits now. He believes it's time to pit. What a move from the both of them. What a battle. As here comes Sebastian Vettel. Leclerc goes defensive. Vettel goes to the inside. They're side by side. Vettel backs off. As yes, you can see the track is drying up quite a lot, but I still think it is time to stay out on the intermediates. I don't know if anybody else has come into the pits, but Red Bull have made the call. Going for this gamble, going for the typical Jensen Button type of gamble to try and go out on onto the slick tires. And Jensen Button won a race because of that gamble, and he's won multiple races because of that. And now Max Verstappen is doing the same thing. As really it takes a certain type of driver to really feel the track and see what are the best conditions. And you can see Max believes or at least Max and Red Bull have agreed the dry tires are the best choice now. The question is now, this looks like the lap to come in. If I do believe most cars will be pitting this lap. You can see Leclerc's actually pulled so much on Vettel this lap. I don't know what's happened to Vettel, or if Verstappen is just holding them up, because Leclerc seems to have some incredible pace this race. As you can see, look at how much he's pulling from Vettel. Incredible driving from Charles Leclerc. Although Vettel does have a race win and Leclerc does not. Leclerc is beating him in the championship after some bad luck and relatively bad performances from Vettel. As you can see, everybody's pulling into the pits now. Question is, did Max Verstappen's gamble work? I think in the first and second sector it did not work, and both Ferraris are pitting. They've chosen to do the double stack, and that's really going to screw Vettel over as Leclerc almost goes into the path of the Racing Point there. This is very interesting now with these strategies of trying to just find all the cars. Hamilton stayed out there. I'm not sure where Bottas is. As out of the pits goes Charles Leclerc, and that is Max Verstappen overtaking Leclerc. And look at that, Verstappen has played it to perfection. He's gone on the dries at the perfect time, and he's pulled a good second on Leclerc. But now, here's the issue for Verstappen. He is stuck behind a Williams, I think. And here he is all over the back, down the inside of, I think that's George Russell. What a move! Although, of course, George is on those intermediate tires, and there goes Charles Leclerc. In the move, in the same place he struggled to overtake Verstappen, he makes it very easily on the Williams. And honestly, I'm not sure if that was a great move by Verstappen because he's on the slicks, which are much quicker. But you can see Leclerc is significantly faster now. I'm not sure if in dry conditions the Ferrari is faster or what, but another thing to point out is that Max Verstappen had to go into the mediums because the softs wouldn't actually make it to the end, or maybe they would, but it'd be too risky, so he chose to go in the mediums, and this is bad for him. Look at that, he goes off track, because now Charles Leclerc is on the soft tires, which are much faster, and they heat up much quicker as well, so question is now, is Leclerc going to be able to get back at Verstappen? He did at Zandvoort. Can he do it again here? As he is in DRS, he's closer to Verstappen. Look at how much he's closed down. He's closed down like a second because of Verstappen being stuck behind the Williams and also being on the mediums, and that Ferrari seems to be pretty quick in these dry conditions. And there goes Verstappen flying over the hill. Leclerc still stuck behind him. And something else I would like to mention is that Alex Albon actually did not pit on the same lap Leclerc and Vettel pit. He pit a lap after that. He pit 2 laps after Verstappen. And that means, yes, Max Verstappen is somehow in a podium position. I'm not sure if they figured out the engine issue because his pace does seem a little bit better now. But, he is going a bit wide. And Leclerc gets very close to the back of Verstappen there. This is getting interesting now. Can Leclerc overtake Verstappen? Vettel has lost out big time because of that double stack. And of course, Albon's lost out even more from P3. And that would be his second podium finish, I believe, in Formula 1. Gone because of a bad strategy call by Red Bull on Albon's side of the garage. But they absolutely nailed it for Verstappen. Albon is down in 5th, so it's not too bad. You can see him on the end of the camera there. Here goes Charles Leclerc down the inside at the turn 1. Look, Verstappen closes the door. These two, of course, did make contact back in the 2019 race into turn 2, and it looked like they were going to make contact again, but Leclerc backed off this time. And he got very close to overtaking Verstappen, but Max, I think he just closed the door very aggressively on Leclerc. And Verstappen is still holding in front of Leclerc, but Leclerc is on those soft tires, and he is in that quick Ferrari, which has some great straight line speed. I don't know if he'll be able to beat Verstappen today, because Max has been incredible with his defense. But he did briefly overtake Verstappen, so Max made a stunning move around the outside of 130R in the intermediate conditions. As here goes Leclerc down the straight. He's on the back of Verstappen. Look at how much he's gaining on that straight. They're side by side into the corner. Leclerc down the inside, Verstappen on the outside. They're side by side through 130R. Max Verstappen round the outside on 130R. This is the second time today they're battling through there. Once in the dry and once in the wet conditions. Now in these dry conditions, but also pretty cold conditions. As here comes Charles Leclerc back down the straight with DRS. We go onward. Leclerc, he gets in front into turn 1 round the outside. How did they not make contact there? That was incredibly close. Max Verstappen holds 3rd place off Charles Leclerc. Vettel's lost out so much round the outside. I think Vettel goes on the AlphaTauri. What a move by Vettel as he's frustrated after that horrible pit strategy call. I think it would have been better to put him on the same lap as Albon, because that double stack really screwed him over, as now he's trying to get through the traffic. I don't know if he's going to get that many points today. Continue on board with Vettel. Now we move through here to see where Leclerc and Verstappen are. Looks like Verstappen has pulled a little bit from Leclerc, at least for the moment, as he really wants to hold this podium position, of course, for the sake of his championship. That podium would very much mean quite a lot for him. Obviously, he's still behind the two Mercedes, but he won't lose as many points. Look at on that straight how much Leclerc was able to gain to a straight and through 130R. Here's Leclerc on the back of Verstappen. He doesn't go for it, and Verstappen goes right for the camera there. He's just about holding in front of Leclerc. Leclerc gained so much on those straights alone. It's incredible. Just how much he gained. But now, this little battle between Leclerc and Verstappen has allowed Alex Albon to catch up as well. He's also on fresher tires than either of them, and with a car that doesn't have any problems. As well as some pretty decent pace today. I mean, Albon put the car in the front row. Probably was just Lewis having a bad session in quali, but not only that, he was actually able to hold third for a good part of the race. And now he's really caught up to Leclerc. He's all over the back of Charles Leclerc. This could be very good for Albon and his championship, as perhaps he wants to try and catch up to Sebastian Vettel. Doesn't seem to really have any competition, Albon. Maybe a bit of competition from Ricciardo below, but really, I don't consider that competition given the difference in performance between the Renault and the Red Bull. And now they go down the straight. Albon's got slipstream. Look at that. Albon's on the outside of Leclerc. Round the outside. Surely not. Leclerc closes the door. It looks like they're weaving around a little bit. Leclerc defending from Albon. Albon's absolutely flying at the moment. Has to be said credit where credit is due. He is very, very fast. And the Red Bull, you can see the Red Bull actually has some pretty damn good straight line speed. I think Verstappen just doesn't look like he's that slow, but he is slow because the Honda is just that much better than I think we thought it was. I don't think it's better than the Ferrari, but it's certainly a pretty strong engine. You can see Verstappen takes a bit of a different line to everyone through the hairpin. I don't know what he's trying to do. But anyway, here we are on the final lap. Albon had one attempt into turn 1 to make this Red Bull 3-4. It doesn't look good for him, but he is still pushing very hard. He's all over the back of Leclerc. Leclerc's trying to stay in Verstappen's slipstream. Albon's trying to stay in Leclerc's slipstream. As they go through here, look at that. Albon's flying through 130R. He's on the back of Leclerc. Will he make this work on the final corner of the final lap? He doesn't go for it. I surely thought he was going to go for that, but either way, Valtteri Bottas wins the race from Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and Albon barely finishing behind Charles Leclerc.
Yet another historic win under their belts. Well done to the team at Mercedes. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Valtteri Bottas passes his rival to take over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Now, let's discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day?
Kimi Raikkonen is my standout today. Nothing you could construe as showboating, just an incredibly consistent performance out on track.
It's time to check out the Constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.